Welcome to the Farmers Podcast. I'm your host, Fredo. And today's episode, I'm going to try to shorten it up as much as I can. We're going to go over a few topics, um, immigration. Also, we're going to talk about the economy in the country, in the state of California. And then I have a topic. I don't know if you guys are familiar with um, and I have, if I'm looking down, it's because I want to be as factual as I can from the information I got. And you can always fact check all this if you want. You can go and do your own research, and hopefully it's helpful for you guys too. It took me some time to put this together. So, if you guys are not familiar with the World Economic Forum, they had it in January. I think it was the 15th through the 19th in Davos, and basically, for me, um, it's just a sit down and powwow of billionaires and influential people across the world that just likes to get together and come up with very left ideas on what they want countries to do and how they want countries to run. And they discuss everything from climate change to um, economics to health, anything security. So you get a lot of different people from different countries that go, and not everybody, like I said, not everybody is there for the wrong reason. They had a special guest. The president of Argentina went to it. He was a special guest, speaker to the World Economic Forum, and I'm gonna. He spoke in Spanish, obviously, and it was translated. So I'm gonna give you guys what I understood and took from what he said. So let's start off with that for right now for the episode. So his name's Javier. I can't really pronounce his last name. It starts with the M. He's from Argentina. I'm not Argentinian. I'm from California, but I'm Mexican. So you know, so he did a speech, and during his speech, Javier, um, he talked about certain things of the West. He calls it the Western world. We're the West, not just the United States, but the West. You know what I mean? So, President of Argentina said that the Western world is in danger because those who are supposed to defend um, the Western way of living, uh, want to become socialists, thrive for socialism. I don't know when socialism became a popular thing now with the young generation, but I don't think they really understand what socialism is. If you want to look at socialism, you need to go to countries like he even said in his own speech, like what Argentina was before, a socialist country. But yeah, I don't understand. It's not something I like to be free. I like freedom. You know, I want to live in a country where even some things I don't agree with, people's ideology and stuff, but you're free to do what you want. Nobody here's gonna force you yet. You know, if you guys keep going the way we're going, that'll be a different conversation we're gonna be having in the future. So, Javier said the leaders of the Western world have abandoned the motto of freedom for a different version version of collectivism. Um, he also said that collective ex- experiments are not the solution to the problem of the world, but rather that it's the root cause to the problems themselves. You know, he's against socialism, and collectivism is another form of socialism, my opinion, and obviously Javier's too. Um, and if people think that I love this country, first of all, you know, this country has given me and my family everything we have. You know, we we couldn't be in a better place. You know, that time is different, but place you're in the country. You know, I wish things could be different and certain things can change if we want to move into the right direction. And I don't blame it all on on the liberals and Democrats and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, we're the ones that put them in those positions to make those those decisions for us. So in all reality, it comes down to us. We're the ones, like I vote. Oh, you know, I spend time telling people we elect the lower offices, we elect the representatives. You know, they represent us. Are they really representing us? Are you really voting because you feel that they understand what you stand for, or are you just voting because they're Democrats and are they Republicans? Um, I've been I'm pretty vocal everywhere I go about where I stand, and I'll tell you right now, um, conservative. You know, I'm a very conservative person now. Um, I didn't vote for Donald Trump in the first election. You know, when he ran against Hillary in 2016, I didn't vote for Hillary either, man. You know, I don't trust that lady at all. I was a registered Democrat for years, and I didn't vote for a long time. I didn't vote through most of my 20s because I felt like I didn't pay enough attention to make informative decision. And you know, I regret not voting because I would have voted against fucking Obama. God damn, I wouldn't have voted for Bush either. But those are other subjects. So, um, he went on, and you know, his speech was done, and obviously that probably didn't sit very well with the billionaires and corrupted people that go to these events to solve the world's issues or come up with solutions for some of the world's issues. So I wanted to talk about um, the, the economic um, that we're in right now as a country. California, the United States. Obviously, we live in California. Is a very expensive state to live in. You know, other than New York, I guess too would be one of the more expensive states. So currently, right now, you can fact check this if you want. The inflation is up 3.4%. Last month was 3.1. So if people are hearing that inflation is going down and stuff like that, uh, go do your own fact checking. This is what I got from the internet. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm just sharing you my opinion. I trust this. It's not getting any better. You know, during the current administration, you know, I get it. People want to defend, you know, President Biden. Like, more power to you. You know, you want to say it's not him, it's not the policies, it's not him shutting down the Keystone pipeline. You know, you can say whatever you want. These are the numbers. So currently, right now, inflation is at 3.4%. Um, the administration themselves admitted that the Inflation Reduction Act failed. You know, plain and simple. They realized that did not work. As a result, a cause result from that is, and these are like I said, look up your own numbers. On an average, groceries are up 20% for Americans right now. Um, Gas prices are nearly 62% higher than they were with the currently now before the previous administration. Don't believe me? Look for numbers. Look for numbers. Look for numbers. Numbers don't lie. Natural gas is 40% higher now. Um, I understand, they want to make a big push for, EV, electric, everything because they have their own agenda of this climate change bullshit that I don't agree with because I think it's all fake crap. If you look at anything from geology or history and the dirt and stuff, you're gonna see that there was events in time that happened that were drastic, that changed temperatures, that rose waters. I mean, even if you want to go, and I don't even know if, like I said, I'm not a devoted Catholic. If you want to go down the biblical path, when the world was flooded, was there climate change then? No. So things change. Whether I feel it's right that we invest trillions of dollars when China and India said they're not going to participate like that, like we want to? Hell no. Man, I got better things we can do with that money. And some of that money would be better off going to that border, the southern border. Let's invest money there. I mean, I don't know if you guys know what's going on because, depending on what media you follow and what radio stations and what social media or news, I guess you can call them newscasting, but I think they're media, right? I'll give you facts. In 2003 fiscal year, southern border, 2.5 million migrant encounters that came in. That's a huge city. Fresno, I think, is our biggest city here, and I think it's barely at 1 million. So imagine 2.5 Fresnos worth of illegal immigrants, not just from Mexico. You're talking about China, India, Pakistan, Brazil, coming. And I'm sorry, this might seem harsh because I'm a first generation Mexican American myself. My parents came here illegally. There was no open border. They had to struggle to get in. And I don't mean that just because they struggle, everybody needs to struggle, but I'm just letting you know that my views are a lot different because I always believe in quality over quantity. And this land is built off immigrants' backs. I get it. But there needs to come a point in time when we start filtering who's going to come in. You know what I mean? You just can't have and it is reckless. This is an open border. It is very reckless for a country. We're already struggling right now with all our inflation, economy issues, and now you're overwhelming our economy with, and that's just from this administration's been here for a few years, since 2020. I think there are either 8 million or over 8 million since their administration took over. So those numbers are crazy. And just in California, I'll tell you the numbers. In California, we have 181,399 over. That's just where I'm estimating right now from the numbers. Homeless people that are citizens. and we're not doing anything for them. But we're taking in just last year 2.5 million illegal migrants, and housing them in all the sanctuary cities and states, and that's our taxes paying for that. And like I said, I'm pro immigration, but I think we need a better system. You know, I think President Biden needs to swallow this one. I feel like he's just throwing a tantrum because the Republicans have the House. I mean, I think that's all it is, just a power struggle. Just close the border. Let's start filtering people. It's not that hard. You can change the negativity that people have towards you right now. I don't think he'll be running again, not just because he's so old and can't function, but just because his unpopular vote is just so high that they're going to have to run with whoever they can throw because he's just not going to cut it for them. And this is all a result from bad policies, you know what I mean? And not looking out for the best interests of the country and the American citizens. And like I said, it's shameful, it's un-American almost, you know what I mean? It is un-American to be that way, and then that's not even including the aid that he's already proposing for Ukraine and Israel. That's another $106 billion. Man, this it's nuts. We're living in a time where we have vets in the streets, dying, homeless, a lot of mental illness in the streets, and he's holding our border hostage until we give Ukraine and Israel money, and I don't agree with that. I'm sorry. I understand. I do have people. They're I feel for them. Their families in Israel and Ukraine with the terrorist attack and the Russia invasion in Ukraine, but that's not in America. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? We have things we need to take care of here at home, in our home, you know, and let the world figure themselves out, And the thing is, like I told you guys, my background in education's in agriculture. We're one of the few countries that has enough farmland to support all our citizens. So don't get fooled and said that we need all this export and all this other stuff from other countries. Currently in the United States right now, we could feed our population, and that's factual. If we got shut down and we closed everything and stopped trade. So, what's an excuse? You'd be having to buy stuff from American farmers and ranchers and producers. That wouldn't be so bad at all. But cheap labor, cheap cost of materials from foreign countries, cheaper everything makes more profit when you're selling it to Americans for a lot more money than what you're paying for. So that's a different topic for a different time. So, what do we do? Now we're at a situation where if you vote right, conservative, you're racist. If you want security at the border, you're racist. Like I said, I'm Hispanic. I'm not even Hispanic. I'm Mexican. I don't tie into that whole Hispanic thing. I'm Mexican American, first generation. I'm gonna share with you guys a story about how my parents came to the United States. So, talking with my parents and my dad, we were having a conversation, and my dad, we're from Nayarit. We're from the coastal area of Mexico. We're indigenous people, and they call them Coras. That's the indigenous tribe, and so my dad was a farmer in Mexico. He farmed mangoes, and avocados and other stuff, and he had cattle and chickens, and they come from a real tropical area of Mexico. So there's a lot of humidity, a lot of hot, warm temperatures for those type of crops to grow. So my dad always said that he lived pretty good. You know, there were poor times when they were young and poor, but when he got older and became a man, he got married. So my dad had land. His dad left him land, left all the brothers land. They split it up, and everybody had their acres to farm or sell. And my dad worked for the government in Mexico, and not really worked for them. He was contracted by them. Actually, I'm sorry. So, my dad was what we call a graffer. He would graft plants. So, um, if you're not familiar with what graphing is or what it consists of, is so in Mexico they had really, you know, higher quality avocado. So, but the higher quality avocado didn't have a good root system or root stock, that would do very good in different soils and stuff like that. So they had a cheaper, lower class avocado that had a stronger trunk and root. So he would graft. You graft. So the purpose of grafting is so that you can use a rootstock from a different plant and stuff that might be more drought resistant or pest resistant or do better in different types of soil. So that's what he did. So the government my dad would lease his land to the government, so he was making money off of that. Then the government would pay him to take care of his own land. So he was making twice the income on one piece of land. So he did good. And then obviously Mexico in that time, it was a little bit more military type of government, and the way they control, you know, territories in Mexico. So the government was contracted my dad. They would come. My dad tells us when he was, we were kids, so we didn't really understand all that. He said they would show up in a helicopter, because if you ever been to where my parents are from, it's more of a tropical jungle looking area. They would show up in a helicopter and pick them up and take them to different parts of the state to graft. So that's what he did, the government. So, to him, they knew he had a little bit of a pull because he worked for the government. They call it that over there. So, and we're gonna get to the point of why I brought the story up. So, my dad always said that they lived pretty good, and Mexico was good to them for a long time. So, but it never fails, and there's greedy people and jealous people in the world that don't like people to do good. And that's one thing we all need to come to terms with. Not everybody, and it's something, once I heard it, I understood what they meant. They said people want you, and people are happy when you're doing good. People want you to do good. They just never want you to do better than them. And unfortunately, that's the reality of the world. So, keep that in mind. So anyway, long story short, my the house is back in those time where because my parents were doing good, but they're not like, they ain't doing that good. Their houses, their shacks over there, but it was good for them, and then the tops are like imagine like a palm tree kind of stuff. They're not real. They ain't got no shingles. Is what I'm trying. This is like a shack hut, and the floors are dirt. They're dirt floors over there. You're sleeping on dirt floors. So, but they were living good. They had cattle and they have chickens and animals and stuff like that, and they farmed and they ate and they fished. So life was good. So the way the story goes, one of my mom's cousins, because they were from a small village, I guess you can call it a town, but I always thought more of a village, was very jealous of the way my parents were, you know, off. And he went to one of my dad's cousins because obviously everybody over there is married through cousins and stuff like that. So their families, even before my dad and my mom got married, and they plotted to kill my parents. And at that point in time, I think I don't know how many siblings because there's 10 of us. I don't know if there was 4 or 5 of us. I was never thought of yet. I was, I'll be here in the United States when they get here. So they devised a plan to get rid of my parents and my siblings. So one night when my parents were home asleep, and they set fire to the house, and you're talking about a shack, like that motherfucker will light up like a Christmas tree, so dry. And my parents were asleep in bed, and the house caught fire. And you know, these kids are screaming. My mom's, scared, trying to get the kids out. I think the house is on fire. My dad runs back in to grab one of my sisters. I could have swore he said child. I don't know if that's which one he went back, and piece of the beam on top fell and burned him in the back and burned my sister too. So they're, it's dark. Everything they had, money, because they didn't have no banks over there where they were from. They didn't trust banks and stuff like that. So they put everything under mattresses. That's where that was your safe, was your mattress, at your house. Your wife stays home. And everything burned up. They had guns because in Mexico it's illegal to have guns unless you're the government. They don't believe in private civilians having guns. So keep that in mind when you complaining about the Second Amendment. And she said all you could hear was just the bullets popping, as the house was burning when they're walking down the road, smoke, dirty and stuff, with nothing, just whatever they were wearing that night, walking. And my dad, in the morning, and he went to the government, because they have a mayor, that's basically, there's corruption everywhere in Mexico. So the mayor is really in charge of everything, from politics to how the whole town runs their village. So he asked them to reach out to the government, because my dad was working for the government. He had contracts with them, and he asked them for help. Like, we're out in the street. We don't have nowhere to stay. Our house was burnt down. And the guy told him, I spoke to the guy, whoever the general or whoever, whatever they call him, the colonel. And he said, we can't do anything for you. And at that instant, my dad said, well, I thought, we had a better understanding here. And they basically told him, no, you thought wrong. So at that point, my dad said, no longer do I have any business with you guys, with the government, nothing. He's all this. I've only come to you guys this one time of need for an emergency, and you guys basically told him to fuck off. So, and my dad walked away from that. He walked away from his contracts, blah blah. They started building back and trying to get their life together, and it wasn't working out. There were some hard times. My dad finally made a decision and told my mom, hey, I'm going to go to the United States and I'm going to go work to the norte. That's what everybody calls it, going north. And my mom, well, what is my mom going to say? They have a family, there's nothing there right now, and kids need to eat. So my dad comes early 80s, I believe, or late 70s. Ends up in Kalinga, like I said in the first episode. And 2 years later, and this is the whole build up to my immigration views and border. So a year later or 2 years later, he sends for my oldest brother and my oldest sister, so they can come, and help and put money together. And then, because there was no open border in that time. You have to get smuggled in by a human trafficker. And if you're lucky, you don't get caught. If you get caught, you have to pay again. And they call them coyotes in Mexico. Now it's cartel. It's a whole different other concept in human trafficking. And so yeah, so my sister and my brother went over, and then years later they sent for my mom and them, and my mom talks about how hard it was crossing over, the struggles of crossing over because my mom had kids. There's 10 of us now, and the only 2 of us were born here in the United States, so the rest were already coming. Yeah. So she, you're talking about toddler to preteen, with my mom. And she says it was rough. It was rough crossing. There was a point in time they had to hide in dumpsters by Tijuana, and they got, I guess there was a crossing not through the river but through like this sewer piping, and there's one board and you have to cross through it, and I guess on the other side of the tunnel there's some gangsters. So they basically said, if you guys don't pay a toll, you guys can't cross through this board to get across. So they had to pay them, and so that was extra money that my dad was gonna have to pay afterwards. Who knows if it was set up or not that way, just to get more money. But they come here, and now we're in the United States. So and it's a whole rough first. One day I'll tell you guys a full story about the struggles of getting to the United States from Mexico, from our point of view. And like I said, I'm pro immigration, but there has to be a better process. We have to do better, and I know people feel like that's being discriminative and racist against my own people and stuff like that. And hey, don't get me wrong. I'm very thankful to be Mexican American, first generation. Yeah, my parents don't speak English. They can't read or write Spanish or English. They didn't go to school. They had to work since they were kids. Their parents died. And, they were able to come to the United States and be able to buy a home. You know what I mean? And get residency. So, I'm proud of my parents, for limited education and resources. They were able to make a whole life for 10 of us. So when I say that there's a lot of pressure for me, it's because I put that pressure on myself, because I have to do better. My parents had nothing, and they built a whole life here in the United States. So the pressure for me to do better is huge. The bar's high, and I've always said that success isn't measured by what you have. I always tell people, as long as you're doing better and doing better than you were a year ago, and you're in a better situation, and I don't mean financially, just that you're doing better choices, you're successful right there, man. There's so many people that get hit one bump and they just crash, man. They go downhill, and I don't get it. I remember being a kid, and this is maybe something that just happened to me. Maybe other people can relate to this. I remember being a kid and going to school, and like I said, my parents don't speak English. So English is my second language, so sometimes I may use the wrong word or make up a word here during the podcast. I remember kids being embarrassed of their parents for not speaking English, or them wanting not to be known for speaking Spanish because they were born here in the United States. And I was always like, the fuck? And I'm sorry if I'm cussing, but my channel's 18 and over anyways on YouTube, so they have to click if they're kids to listen to this stuff. And I was like, dude, this is the best thing that's ever could have possibly situation that could have happened to me, being Mexican American. Like, I'm proud of my culture. My kids are mixed, yeah, they're mixed. You know, their mom's Caucasian and or white, if you want to call it that. You know what I mean? And I want my kids to understand and experience our culture. You know, because we're indigenous people, and and I'm proud of our rich culture that we have, and her their moms too. You know, she's you know part Italian, part from Tennessee, I believe. Donna and their families from there, so they have a whole mixture of everything. You know, because we're indigenous with Spaniard, so like this is a Heinz 57 mixture of kids. And that's why I don't believe in racism. I don't believe in discrimination like that because you know you're always gonna find something wrong if you're looking for something wrong. Okay, there's always gonna be struggles. People are always gonna have preferences. It even if it's over skin or nothing. I don't care. If you are not thick skinned, you're not gonna make it in this world. I've always said nature has proven that only the strong survive. I've always understood that, and I'll say it again. If you're not tough, you ain't gonna cut it in this life. Take it how you want it. I stand by that, and that's something that is undisputed. Nature and human. You know, I know people that make six figures, don't have to worry about normal struggles like some of us. And I know people that make more than that. I also been at the lower end where I've had to share food with people because we couldn't afford to eat. I remember when I first moved out when I think I was like 19, and I thought I was like, fuck, I'm an adult, I'm gonna move out. For a whole month, I ate bologna sandwiches. I tell the story all the time. I tell it to my coworkers. I tell it to Brooke and the kids, to Jojo, my oldest daughter. Literally, bread and bologna. That was it. Sometimes I had mustard. I don't eat fucking bologna anymore. You can see my belly and my face. I eat decent, but it ain't because I'm wealthy. It's because we work hard and we raise our own now. You know what I mean? But it it's hard for me to understand. And this is where I get into my weird little conversations. The thing is, how people think that we should all have the same thing. I don't believe in that shit. You know, you work hard and you have what you have. There's no other way. You think that even if they gave you everything, people will still complain. That's just the nature of people. But luckily, like I said, this is the greatest country in the world. You have freedoms that you don't have in other countries. You're born free. You're born so free that if you want to be an animal, you can be a cat or dog. Whether I agree with it or not, and I don't think it's real, but you have that option, and I'm not gonna say you don't. If you want to be a dog or a cat or a freaking lizard, you have the right to do that. No, no questions asked, no problems. But it drives me crazy when people say that America's not great. You want to see countries that don't treat their people like we do here. Go visit China, North Korea, and Russia too. Then come back here and see if it's not a great country. You'll you'll learn to love this country. And um, and I don't want to get all wild and stuff like that, but there's a lot of things that are wrong that I don't agree with, but all I can do is teach my kids right from wrong. That's it. And try to live my life as simple as I can. And, you know, um, and anyways, moving on to the border again, I guess. Sorry, I got sidetracked. So, they're in the Congress. I don't know if you guys listen to the congressional hearings, but there's congressional hearings like all the time about different things, and I know they're in the process of drawing articles of impeachment for Department of Secretary Homeland Security Mayorkas. Yeah, he's been a big problem. To the southern border. I personally, you know, hats off to Texas and um, what they're doing down there with the governor trying to secure their border. I think it should be left to the states to do that, especially if you're a border state. Like that should be your right to do that. The government shouldn't have no authority to basically say, hey, you need to let those immigrants in. Texas, do whatever you want. I'm not a big fan of Texas. You know what I mean? I have my mixed feelings and opinions about Texas just because of some of the Hispanic culture over there. But that's my opinion for different topic, different time. But I fully support Texas. And 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 if they go forward with this impeachment for Mayorkas, get that scum out of here. You know what I mean? He's trash. But a lot of people say it's not him, that it's the policies of the administration. He's in charge of that department, so it's his call ultimately. Hey, there was times when people did not agree with Trump, and they told him. If he overruled them, that's a whole different other thing. But this guy isn't even really putting up a fight, so it all falls on him. Whether you want to say it's Biden, the administration, the left wing agenda, he has the power to say, hey, I can't follow those orders. Those are basically, you know, putting at risk all our country. And he hasn't done that. He's just out there. Every time he goes to the hearings, he's just saying that they're doing everything they can while they can, and that Congress is not helping out. Bullshit. So, fuck him. Get him out of here. And with that, I want to move on. I want to share you with you guys, and I probably will be sharing some stories about immigration from people that I've talked to that traveled to this country from Central America, South America, and what their process was like. Coming to the United States, and some of these stories are a little bit graphic, so um, it'll be for another episode, part 2 of this one that has to do with illegal immigration. But other than that, like I said, I have my own opinion. This is why I did the podcast. I wanted to talk to people. I wanted to reach more people than I do. I talk to my coworkers, and I express my opinions and views. And what I had, one person tell me more than one time. He's like, "Though you don't get tired of this, of always saying this and saying that about the administration." And I thought back, and I told him, well, if it's something I believe, how can I get tired? I told him, I have kids. He told me, he's like, you're not going to change my mind. I said, it's not about changing your mind. It's for opening your eyes. You changing your mind, that's your life, man. If you want to keep voting the way you're voting, more power to you. But evil don't stop. Some of us need to fight, back. Whatever little we can do is always gonna be better than not doing anything. And so I know people get tired. He's told me at work he gets tired sometimes of listening. But are you really listening sometimes? But it's what it is. You know, this is a very important year. You know, is it every 4 years? Obviously, is a very important year when you're electing somebody. You know, or trying to elect somebody that might steer you to the good old golden days. You know what I mean? When people were proud, you can't even be proud to be American anymore. They think that that's some kind of racist uh, statement to make. You know, I don't get it. And like I said, I'm Mexican American. You know what I mean? So that's crazy for me to hear. But you know, and I didn't mean to make this podcast about uh, dark and time where we need to be more together than anything. But you know, I just felt I needed to share that with you guys. You know, and I've always said my podcast isn't gonna be all political and stuff like that, but you know, topics tie into a lot of the politics of this country here, and um, you know, I'll be putting up another video this month because today is the 4th. I don't know if I mentioned it. It's the 4th of February. So it's the beginning of the month. I'll be putting up another video. My next episode will be featuring some of our experiences from going to the Tulare Ag Show, the World Expose Ag Show in Tulare. I don't know if you guys ever been to that. It's not just for farmers. They have all the newest technologies for plants, for irrigation systems, not just commercial for farming, but for home. You know, the latest technology of anything that has to do with the world, you know, for ag and not just ag either. You know, you'll see the trucks, they have new trucks, they have companies like from China, Australia, Spain, France, you know, bringing forth their best technology. And they have equipment for you to see, even if you don't have any land. You know, they'll answer any questions. You know, they bring um, brochures, pens, and stuff, contact information. You know, some of them are seed companies and stuff like that, local or foreign. And then Honda and I believe Tacoma or Kubota, they do like a track where they'll put like a side by side in a truck and stuff like that. And you can drive it around the track and you can see how their vehicles perform. I don't think they have live music, but I could be wrong. But they have food, and I think Harris Ranch um, does like sandwiches and stuff like that. But there's a bunch of food, and it's very kid friendly. I'm just gonna suggest if your kids are toddlers, take a wagon or a stroller because there's a lot of walking, whacking, and yeah, we'll be hopefully my IT department, aka Brooke, um, if we can get savvy, we'll upload some pictures and film with some voiceover over commentating on it. And yeah, that's what we'll be. Not too sure what day. I think it's a 3 or 4 day event. So I'm not sure what day because does land during Valentine's, and I guess it's not that romantic to do that. But hey, I want to go. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And if like I said, if this was more of a downer episode, I do apologize for that. I just felt like I needed to talk about, you know, current events happening right now in our country in the state of California, and share obviously my personal stories and opinions with you guys. And I just want to let you guys know, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. We're on YouTube. You know, on my Instagram account, I do post the links. Sometimes I guess where people are having trouble, so you can always reach out and send me a message, and I'll direct you through Facebook or actually straight to the channel on YouTube. Um, we're gonna be doing a raffles for because we are partners through um, uh, Angus Cattle, so we do have our own merch. You know, what I mean, hats and stuff like that, and we're gonna be raffling some hats for people that have subscribed and commented on our channel and our Instagram. So just to let you guys know. Please subscribe, but we will, if you leave us a comment, we're gonna do a drawing. One of the episodes we have hats already for people to give away. Some are like that blingy, bedazzle looking, sparkling hats. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And some are like for men that are just like this black one right here that I'm wearing. So keep a lookout. And comment on there, subscribe, and then if you subscribe, just comment on there so I know. You know what I mean, that you're one of the subscriber, and we'll put your name in for the drawing. We'll be doing the the drawing probably in our next episode, hopefully. If not, if we can do it an episode after that. So I just want to tell you guys thank you guys for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning into my channel or to the Farmers Podcast, go ahead and go back and watch the first episode. I was with Brooke. She helped me, and I can't thank her enough for putting up with me and helping me. With this is a big project I've undertaken, and she's going along with this for the ride because she is my IT department. So again, thank you, and hopefully we'll be conversating always. If you guys can comment feedback on my channel, and maybe if you guys have some questions, I'll write them down, try to get you guys a factual answer, or as closest thing as I can to answer, and I'll bring it up. I'll even say your name on the podcast and be like, hey, question from so and so, here's the answer for that. And like I said, we're working on hopefully pretty soon just going through this channel, and then maybe going live on Instagram to be able to conversate with people during the podcast. If when I have my special guests come in and are co-hosts. So thank you guys, and we'll be seeing you guys again.